And welcome back to another episode of The Credit Authority. I am your host, Rhonda Klch, and every week we try to bring you influential business leaders in our community that can help educate you on what's happening in today's marketplace. Today's guest is no different. He's been a guest on our show before. So welcome to the studio, Joe DiChiarra with Bedrock Business Builders. He is our go-to CPA for all tax advice, especially for you small entrepreneurs. So welcome, Joe. I am so excited to have you in here. More importantly, thank you for carving out the time because we're in the middle of tax season.
Yes.
So you must really love our show.
I do.
So, you and I, we speak a lot offline. Tell me what's happening right now in the world of tax law for especially small entrepreneurs. And as you know, we focus a lot with the real estate community. So I'd love to know about some changes and advice that you can give to not only our small businesses, but also to the realtors that tune into our show.
I'd love to. So, what people have to realize that most of the stuff that's going on today has been on the books since before I started in accounting 40 years ago. There's this independent contractor versus employee issue that's been going on for decades, and at the heart of the issue really is Social Security taxes. Okay, because I don't know if you've heard, but by the time you probably start collecting, it might not even be there. So something has to be done. And they've been masking it in the guise of income taxes. This is my own opinion.
Okay.
And what it comes down to, if you talk about the Social Security issue, sole proprietors are taxed at 15% of their net profits. Now, out of 30 million businesses, over 25 million are still classified as sole proprietors. Now, this fact mystifies me because being a sole proprietor is the worst way to do business. That 15% is a shocker for a lot of new business owners because they don't realize it. We're talking about business owners that don't normally hire a CPA. They go to a tax preparer at the end of the year. So part of my mission has been to educate people about the facts.
So I just want to stop you right there. So if I'm a sole proprietor, if I'm following what you're saying, and I am in business for myself, my 15% of my net is going towards Social Security. That does not include state and federal, if allowable. So at the end of the day, I could really land up paying out, over 50%.
Yes. But let's take the lower echelon of small businesses, because it's tough. Most small businesses don't even succeed. In fact, I've seen a lot of businesses that never even generate a penny in revenue. Okay, that's the fact. So I started on this course wondering why so many businesses fail. And it took me to this issue that I was really surprised about because let's say you make $50,000, which isn't a lot, especially if you live in our neck of the woods,
Sure,
Long Island.
course.
Let's say you have a family. And people are doing it. They're surviving. So you go into business for yourself. You become a landscaper. You start building houses, whatever. You love what you do. You make $50,000. You go to your tax preparer. And they tell you, well, first of all, you owe $7,500 just in Social Security taxes, okay? So the income tax rate, which is what the politicians talk about, is at a low rate. You're getting a large standard deduction if you're married. It's over $20,000. Most people don't even itemize anymore. So when you look at it, the rate the effective rate is lower than 15%, but then you add the tax, the state tax to the 15%, and you're at 35, 40% for somebody that's not making a lot of money to begin with.
Do you think that most of the small business owners that you've at least seen Do you believe that it's more of a hobby than a career?
So it's funny that you should ask that because, for years they've had this hobby loss rule. So if you don't make money, 3 out of 5 years, they can say, well, you're not in this for profit. It's a hobby. So what's happened is, and we'll cut to the real chase now, what people have been getting affected by is the new 1099 rules.
Okay.
Okay, because what they've done is they've made people like my mom and my son-in-law that actually have hobbies, they've made them into businesses. And the reason being is, my mom, when COVID started, she likes making stuff. So she said, oh, I'll make masks. And she started an Etsy store with my sister's help. And in 2022, if you sell over $600 worth of merchandise, you get a 1099. The rule used to be 20,000 and over 200 transactions. So automatically I said, you're a business mom. She's on Social Security. She's 82 years old. I'm like, she's like, what?
So what I want to understand is you're saying if somebody makes more than $600, and use your mother as an example, she makes over $600, who's 1099ing her? Is she required to provide a 1099, go to an accountant or a tax preparer? Is she obligated to do that herself? Or is there an organization, or is the Etsy store or somebody else responsible for actually submitting that 1099 and putting it on the record?
So this is a great question because in her case, she's online. She's what they call it. She's getting it from merchant services. Mm-hmm. It could be a credit card, but with her, it's Etsy. So Etsy asks her for her W-9 info, and they issue the 1099. Now let me just clarify. This is gross. It's not net. She's not making money, but she's going to get a 1099. And one of the things the IRS is saying, and they're blasting it to people like me, accountants, is that millions of people, like my mother, are going to have to file returns that never had to file before.
Because they've reduced the threshold for filing requirements.
Yes. My son-in-law has a hobby. He buys and sells posters. He's got them all over. It's a hobby. But they do $20,000 in buying and selling. He's going to get a 1099. And if he didn't have me to protect him, he'd wind up, he doesn't know about taxes. He'd get a 1099. A lot of people would say, oh, what's this?
So somebody like myself, I'm self-employed, right, as we know. I file my taxes. I don't like to, but I do, right? Do I have to file a 1099, or is my income based on my net income because I'm producing my expenses and my P&L statements to my tax preparer, my accountant? Am I missing something that puts me in a position of liability down the future for an audit?
Absolutely. So as a business owner, you're probably going to get more 1099s now than you ever got before.
I've gotten a lot more this year from merchant services. I've had other businesses that normally I would conduct standard business with that normally, they send me an invoice, I make a payment. Over the last year, I've noticed I've gotten 1099s from them. I didn't think much of it. I submit it. It's part of my income and my expenses regardless, but I guess the 1099 is an additional way. I think when I think of 1099, especially from the real estate community, I have a house, I wouldn't think to 1099 a property because I'm doing a P&L for it and I'm writing my expenses down, for that segment. So I feel like it's adding so much more stress.
So, there's a lot to cover, but, basically what the IRS has done in Congress has made business owners their unpaid police force. So you're getting 1099s from other businesses. And you're a little bit different because you have an established business. You've been doing it for years. You're depositing your money, and hopefully the 1099s are less than what you're depositing. So you have no risk. But as a business owner now, they've put the onus on you to issue 1099s to anybody you're doing business with, okay, including foreigners, okay, which is kind of shocking because, you know, that's always a question to me, like, what about my, you know, my foreigners, my people that I outsource to?
Right.
And they've put the onus on that. But let me cover the real estate issue because we've recently had a question about that.
Yeah, and then I want to definitely hear it, and then we have to wrap it up for the sake of time. But
Okay.
hit the real estate issue.
So, you know, 1099s, and I'm not a real estate expert, but I do know that when there's a sale, an economic transfer, whether it be it, you know, cash, gifts in kind, whatever, but when there's a transfer of real estate, that's a transaction that the IRS wants to know about. And sometimes, like you said, there's no 1099 issued. And I believe that that's going to be a thing of the past.
I think we should definitely have you back on again as our tax expert, and we will explore more specifically on that 1099 issue. But for the sake of time, we do have to cut you short today.
Okay.
We are in studio with Joe DiChiarra. He is with Bedrock Business Builders. And Joe, how do people reach you?
Go to bedrockbusinessbuilders.com, or they can go to Mastermind with Joe, which is our free mastermind group that we have every Friday.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming to the studio today. Stay tuned for our next guest.